Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Maverick. My name is Kirk Henderson, and I am joined, as always, by fellow co-editor over at Mavs Moneyball, Josh Bowe. How are you doing tonight, Josh?
I'm doing good. It's been a little bit.
It has been. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's March. It is the March doldrums of
the basketball matters, but we're all kind of in the blah. And yeah. I was honestly, if anybody gives a shit, I was working at my real job until about 3 a.m. So I was not doing anything fun. Josh and I were basically competing to see who could whine more prior to that game beginning. Man, the Dallas Mavericks just beat the Jazz 115-105. They are now 42-29. I believe, let's take a look at the standings. I believe after that loss, that kind of inexplicable loss by the Suns, the Dallas Mavericks are a half game up. They are in sixth place as of right now. I'm pretty sure that if the Kings, who are up against the Sixers by 15, if they'll overtake the Mavs by the end of this podcast, but that's neither here nor there. I'm happy with 6. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, of course. Solid win. Obviously, it didn't look great in the first quarter, but this was one of those games where basically since the first quarter, the Mavericks kind of quietly controlled the game. This would be a game if you played this game in reverse. It would have been like a Mavericks blowout that they just kind of eased into a win. And those points at the end would have been considered garbage time. Because really, after the first quarter, I mean, they got their act together. Obviously, they weren't ready to play to start. Don't know if that was the 3-day layoff. But after that first quarter ended, I mean, the Jazz only scored, I think, 66 points in the final 3 quarters, which is really good. Really, really good. Mm-hmm. And the Jazz aren't very good. So the Mavericks did what they had to do. They won on the road by double digits against a bad team. I mean, that's about as much as taking care of business as you can get without it being a total laugher. So obviously first quarter wasn't great, but it was clear it wasn't like, it was just more, they're not into the game yet. They were very much still on their 3-day break, which is kind of weird to have that long of a break in March before a season's over. So, once they got their sea legs under them and they were ready to play, they handle their business.
So let me offer you a little statistical anomaly that I find particularly interesting. I didn't share this with you before the game because I'm kind of curious to your reaction to it. In the 2021 season, in the 2021-22 season, which the Mavericks ended up heading to the Western Conference Finals, they finished the NBA season 42-30, 12 games above 500. Looking back through their win-loss record that year, they were only 13 games over 500 once. The game before the regular season ended, where they beat Toronto 114-110. The Mavericks, with 9 games remaining in the regular season, are now 13 games above 500. And so for all of our, in my opinion, quite justified consternation about the sort of baffling nature of these Mavericks when they came out from the All-Star game and lost 5 of 6, they are in an absolutely fantastic spot.
Oh yeah, they really are. They've turned it around. A lot of different factors contributing to that, of course. Schedule helps mightily. That's one. Obviously, they've cleaned some things up. Luka has looked good. They've made some quality, I think, lineup and rotation changes, despite, from the consternation from some of the Mavs fans about the minutes of Maxi Kleber and Tim Hardaway Jr. They've really kind of settled on their rotation, and I think some guys, Dante Exum's come back. So they've really cleaned some things up after those games. And I also think it was just like, if you just kind of look at the schedule, like when they lost 5 of 6, all 5 of those losses were against good teams. Like, only one game, Philadelphia without Joel Embiid, was kind of bad, but the others were Boston, Cleveland, and Indiana. Like, those were the 3 teams they lost to, because they lost Indiana twice. Like, those are good teams. Those are pretty solid teams. So like, they just needed, I think that kind of just had bunching all those good teams together right then, while the Mavericks were still figuring some things out post trade deadline, I think made things look worse than it really was. And I think with the schedule evening out, they cleaned some things up. Obviously, get the big wins against Denver, and you get a big win against Miami. But yeah, they're rolling right along, and tonight was no different. And really, it's basically every single game in this 7 of 8, including tonight, it's following the same formula. They dominate the paint, but on both ends of the floor. They're scoring in the paint. They're walling off the paint defensively. They're not hitting threes, but they're still getting out in transition.
The threes they're getting are good.
They are good. Yeah.
I mean, I made a joke and people yelled at me about this, but like, Maxi Kleber is going to have some bullshit game where he goes 6 of 8 from 3 in April or like late April or early May. And all the different people who are just long-term Maxi stands are going to be like, see, this is why you don't give up. And it's like, okay. Like Hardaway, is a classic example of the shots that they're getting tonight. Like, he finished 3 of 9 from 3, 5 of 14 from the field. And his looks, all but the one where he thought he got fouled, were really fantastic.
Yeah, and I thought that the Mavericks actually, like, if he's going to play, because 29 minutes is actually, I want to say that's the most minutes he's played since aside from the game Luka missed against Oklahoma City Thunder, and he only played that many because Luka wasn't, Luka was sitting out with a sore hamstring.
Right.
They at least, they played him a lot, and they did because he, like you said, he was open. They were giving him the Rick Carlisle looks where he was screening for Luka and popping out beyond the 3-point line. And I swear he was open like every single time.
And he was taking them.
And they were good shots. You can't not take those shots.
It hurts me to kind of praise Maxi because I'm sort of so tired of it all, even though I understand what the numbers say. But I felt as if he was taking the shots with a little less oh fuck to the mechanics.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, good gracious. Where are we? So it's, this is a little bit of a difficult game to talk about in the sense that the Mavericks came out and they played at their food a little bit. Tim Hardaway kind of kept them active in the first quarter. I think he hit 3 threes in the first quarter, which is pretty hilarious because that means he went 0 for 6 the rest of the game. If my math, if I'm remembering correctly, I'm not going to look it up because I don't care enough.
You're right. And he hit all 3 in the first quarter. I just looked it up. So yeah, that was huge. It
was huge.
They could have been down 20 if he doesn't have a good quarter.
Yeah, and I mean this was a trap game for all intents and purposes. I mean, there's some weird. One of the things I would like to do. You know what? Let's just do this. Let's just focus on this before we go to our break.
Okay.
I'm of the opinion that the increased physicality of the post February 1st NBA, where they have clearly changed virtually all interpretations of the rules, serve to benefit Luka Dončić's style of play if he will simply embrace that kind of play. And what I mean by that is he is the strongest MFer in the game. I really earnestly believe this. I don't think there's a single guy that can deal with him in strength one-on-one. Not anyone. Kawhi, no one. And so he's no longer foul hunting, or at least explicitly foul hunting, because he's not going to get it. I think he knows it. I don't see him barking at the refs as much. I mean, maybe this just could be willful on my part, but he's going to the lane. His passing has gone up a level, which feels ridiculous to say out loud. But I feel like when Luka is locked in, he is as amazing as he has ever been in a Dallas Mavericks uniform, with the one exception of his willingness to take this many threes. And I wonder if the game if once you get into sort of brass tacks with these really important games, if we see Luka cut his threes by he's shooting a lot. if we see him shave maybe 2 off a game. I don't know. Am I being a little bit ridiculous? What do you think of that take?
I don't know, because I mean, if he's hitting them, but
not the threes, but like the physical style of play. Do you think it benefits Luka in sort of his strengths?
Yeah, I don't think it bothers him too much, because he's not a guy that can get thrown off of his spot very easily anyway. So if you're going to be more rough with Luka, like, I think he's got ways to adapt his game, and the way that he can release the shot and his footwork and his ball skills, like he'll be okay. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he keeps shooting threes, if only because if he doesn't want to get hammered in the paint for 4 minutes every night, those threes are kind of like a welcome reprieve, where it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to get hacked to death every single time I drive into the paint. I'll just I'll take some threes and maybe save my
I guess it's a different kind of three, because tonight he got at least 4, if not 5, catch and shoot threes.
And then he passed one up in the fourth quarter in the corner. He did get fouled though. But yeah, he's getting way more catch and shoots this season than any other season.
Well, it's kind of insane, to be quite candid. Like, just the sheer gap in the catch and shoot threes. We can probably look that up for tomorrow night. This was just, it's the kind of performance where when he knuckled up, meaning Luka, because I felt like Luka kind of didn't take the first quarter seriously. The whole team kind of came together with him,
especially defensively.
Yes, because one of the things that's gone sort of under the radar, at least in terms of when you and I are discussing this, is I think the NBA is allowing more physicality that actually actively benefits Luka defensively, because it allows him to body a lot harder. Do you know what I mean?
And that's his, his. It's weird to say, I'm trying to phrase it better, but his strength is his strength, like
literal
on
strength.
Defense.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, no, I think so. And I think, I've been thinking, I was thinking watching this game, and I was really trying to, like, what's different? Because they got firebombed defensively in that 5 of 6 losing stretch.
Right.
I mean, they got absolutely torched. I'm like, what changed? Because it's almost like a light switch. And part of it is, definitely opponents. It helps to play Miami, Detroit, Chicago, San Antonio, Utah twice. But they also have, Golden State without Steph. And Denver was maybe the only real challenging offense they played, but they also held Denver to 105. They've played good defense against everyone for the most part. And I'm just trying to think, like, what's changed. And schematically, I don't know if that much has changed. Like, they're still giving up their fair share of corner threes in the last 8 games that they've won, or their last 9 games, I think. So they're 8 of their last 9 wins. They're still 25th in giving up corner threes in that stretch. So, right. And it's actually up. It's 11.7% of total shots are corner threes, and that's up from their season number of 11.1. So they're not giving up less corner threes, which is what killed them in that 5 of 6 losing stretch. But I think what they're doing is, like, they're locking down the other parts, because I think they're always going to give up corner threes with the way that kids' defense is playing and the way they've got these guys kind of over helping a little bit and playing drop. Like, that's just going to be a natural. You're just going to give up that shot. But I think they're cleaning up the rest of it. And I don't want to kick him while he's down, but, like, I don't think it's a coincidence that the Mavericks are navigating screens significantly better since Josh Green went to the bench and then exited the lineup. So you've got Derrick Jones Jr. starting. You've got Exum coming off the bench. Like, those guys are getting, like, if you're going to play drop, we talked about this before. Like, if you're going to play drop, the only way you can succeed is if you've got guys that are guarding the ball handler that can get over the screen to help your big, so he's not just in an island guarding 2-on-1s in the paint, where you're either giving up a wide open pull-up jumper to a ball handler, or you're giving up something at the rim, like a lob or a pocket pass to the dive man. And I think Jones and I think Exum have been great at not only, like, fighting over the screen, so it's not so clean for the ball handler to get that ramp, that runway to the rim, but they've also been playing the pocket pass pretty well too. Like, and Tim Hardaway Jr. actually had a couple of decent plays as the defender in the pick and roll as well. He had 3 steals, and Jones had 1. Exum didn't have any, but he played pretty well. And I think that's a big difference, because, like, let's be real, Josh Green, when he gets screened, the Mavericks are guarding 4-on-5 when he gets screened. And I feel like that's been happening less since he's been to the bench and now out of the lineup, and you get more minutes for Jones and Exum, who are much better at navigating those screens. And Lively and Gafford have been huge, like, figuratively and literally, like, huge. Like, they are guarding the rim exceptionally well. They're still giving up threes. They're still giving up corner threes. Like, Utah took 39 threes. Yep. But they're playing worse shooting teams. Like, the Jazz aren't a good shooting team, so that helps. And they're not giving up anything at the rim. Like, they have locked down the rim really well, which is kind of what you do. That's kind of what the main purpose of a drop, right? Is like, we're at least going to make sure we're not giving you the rim. You're going to get some open threes, and the Mavericks were giving up maybe a little bit too many in that losing stretch. But man, they're Gafford and Lively are locking down the rim. Jones and Exum are fighting over screens to make things a little bit harder. And PJ Washington has been like a Swiss Army knife, like in isolation, or also guarding in the pick and roll, help rotation defense. It's really good. It's helped with the schedule, but I really think they've tightened things up a little bit. They're not completely different. Like, they're still kind of that same team that lost 5 of 6 defensively, but they've just made enough changes on the margins, plus Josh Green being out of the lineup, that I think it's made a big difference.
That's so interesting. The lack of Josh Green in the lineup is not something I would have considered to be beneficial, and I think that's something that's going to be worth exploring.
Trying not to kick the guy while he's out, but I mean, he hasn't had a good season defensively. Like, he just hasn't.
Well, I mean, so the Rockets lost Alpern Sengun, how you say his name? Yep. And they've just gone on a fucking run. And he was essentially considered their best player. But by removing him from the lineup, they're playing very differently, and they found something new. It's hard to say if it's better at this point in the year, but it's different, and sometimes that just happens. So, all right, so we're going to go to a break here. Josh is going to fix his camera, which I promise he doesn't even realize is broken because he's not on the same screen as I am.
Box scores, I'm sorry.
It's been like 8 minutes. The chat is losing their minds.
Sorry.
So while you guys are here, if you guys could do me a favor, if you could head down and like this live video. While you're there, if you could consider subscribing. There's something else you can do to where you really get notified every time we go live. I try to post these things to let everybody know in advance, just as often as possible, both on YouTube and otherwise. If you are listening, we're all the way up to 2,620 subs. I think a fun goal maybe for the end of the Mavericks playoff run, and preferably NBA championship, I would be like 3,000 subs. That'd be nice. I set 5,000 at the beginning of the year, but that was kind of ridiculous, and I found that out relatively quickly. If you're listening on an audio stream, if you could give us a like, if you could, if you could give us a subscribe, if you could shoot me a email, if you could leave us a comment on whatever podcasting feed you listen to. I see all that stuff. It's something we are very, very appreciative of. Now we're going to go ahead and leave just a quick break here for audio ad insertion. If you like supporting our podcast, that is the one way that Josh and I actually get paid whatever beer money we make from this thing. So we will be right back. Thanks for hanging out. All right, so we've managed to talk nearly 20 minutes about a game that we don't have super strong opinions on, which is always fun. Lots of just weirdness tonight in this game that I enjoyed. Just the Mavericks controlling the boards is always going to be something. I mean, I guess they only won by 1, but I felt like they secured a lot of great defensive rebounds. The Jazz only had, I guess they had 11 offensive boards. I don't know. I didn't feel like there was anything in this game that had me particularly worried, other than I would love to see the Mavericks come out. And this is really looking ahead to the Kings game tomorrow night. I would love to see the Mavericks come out with some focus defensively in the first quarter. There are games where they've done that, but really what they've done during some of these win streak games is they've come out and played and then cracked down. It's a long game, but I would like to see some lock in from the very beginning.
Yeah, and especially kind of quiet. I know the Mavericks have been playing well. The only other team that might be playing better than them right now, besides the Celtics and the Nuggets, are probably the Kings. They've been really good. They're up almost 20 in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left right now against Philadelphia. They've got, I think, a top 5 net rating over the last 2 weeks or something like that. They cannot start slowly against this team because they're playing really well. A better team might be able to get them in a bigger hole that they can't climb back out of. So So yeah, they're going to be challenged. This is going to be the best offensive team they've played besides Denver in this recent stretch, and maybe they copycat that formula because the Kings kind of play a little similarly. Obviously, Sabonis and Jokic aren't like 1-to-1, but they kind of operate in different parts of the floor, the same parts of the floor, and play a somewhat similar style with that high post hub for dribble handoffs and facilitating. So I'll be curious if that means, Mavs fans might not want to hear it, but if that means more Maxey, because Maxey played a lot in that Denver game and actually played pretty well defensively until the fourth quarter stretch. They tried out that center PJ Maxey lineup. I think it was Gafford. They had Gafford and Lively rotating in with PJ and Maxey, like their ultra big lineup. I wonder if they try that. They might not have to because Denver is big. Like Aaron Gordon is a big guy to play next to Jokic, and Sacramento basically plays like Harrison Barnes and Keegan Murray as the front court guys, and those are more wing-ish players. So they might not try the ultra big lineup again. But I'm curious if they kind of mimic that defensive strategy that they did against Denver. Maybe put PJ or Maxey on Sabonis, have Gafford or Lively roam as a help defender near the rim to protect from backdoor cuts and stuff like that. But we'll see. I want to talk. Can I pivot into something that's kind of popped out at me the last couple games here and happened again tonight?
Literally anything you want to talk about. My brain is scrambled eggs.
Okay. Would you believe that Daniel Gafford, how many assists do you think? I mean, if you haven't looked it up yet, how many assists do you think Daniel Gafford has in the last 3 games?
6?
He has 13.
What the
He had 5 tonight, 5 against the Jazz on Thursday, 3 against the Spurs.
Daniel Passford?
Daniel Daniel Gafford almost had a 5x5 tonight. 13 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks. He had 2 steals.
This is a rule interpretation question. There was one back and forth with Luka and him in the lane at the rim that I could not be. I was shocked that the Mavericks didn't get like a 36-second call with how long they were in the key. Is with the Kings with the Jazz getting a tip on that? Was that like the only reason that wasn't called? I was totally baffled.
Yeah, I think so. Was it that weird kind of fast
break?
Right,
they were basically playing volleyball to one another until it almost looked like pool basketball where two big kids were looking to score on like a 5th grader. That was
pretty funny. And then Luka kind of just tossed it in. Yeah, I don't know why that wasn't called, but whatever. But Gafford's been they've been running this him catching at the high post free throw line extended and finding Kyrie on backdoor cuts. He did it twice tonight. I don't know if it's a thing just something they're seeing against the Jazz, because he also did it on Thursday in the win against the Jazz. Him and Kyrie are kind of developing this connection, which goes to show Kyrie's his off-ball ability is just, I can't emphasize enough how huge it is for this team and how it gets them moving and kind of breaks them out of the stagnation that they can kind of develop in the half court at times, and especially with this 3-point shooting funk they're in. His ability to move off ball and just free some guys up, not only for threes, but just stuff at the rim. Because when he's backdoor cutting and catching it, he's freaking defenses out, and he's either scoring in the paint or he's kind of getting the ball rotation so the other teams get put in the blender. So that's been really fun to watch. But yeah, Gafford, 2 straight games with 5 assists, 3 in the game before that. I think he's a career, what is he? He's probably a career 1 assist guy. He's a career 0.9 assists per game guy. So pretty cool to see.
Absolutely preposterous.
I know. I don't know if this is just a Jazz thing, so it'll be interesting to see if this continues. But
is there any? Yeah. Can you see on any of the stats how many dunks there were tonight?
Oh, I can't see that right now.
Because I know the Mavericks had, what did they have? 20 dunks last game.
They had 18 last game.
Ugh.
I don't know how many dunks they had tonight, but they were 15 of 17 at the restricted area.
It was I had the game on. It was killing because I asked out of podcasting duties early just because I wasn't feeling it. But I had the game on, and that was usually it's you who misses out on the really fun shit.
I know. I usually cover if I'm on by myself, it's almost always a shit game. But
that was great. I mean that it's just I my friend Seth Partnow, one of these. He wrote the mid-range theory think that's the name of his book, but he's a really smart basketball guy. Like, yelled at me today about how momentum heading into the playoffs is not a thing. And with all due respect, fuck him, because I am a Dallas Mavericks fan, and I remember the 2006-2007 off, like the Mavericks went 52-4 at one point in the season, and then proceeded to play like meh basketball down the stretch, and then they got annihilated by the Warriors. Like, I'm just not one of these fans that, like, I have a realistic take on this team. Like, I it's so funny because it's like Jason Kidd kind of drives me crazy. I mean, absolutely drives me crazy. I'm not gonna lie, but the Mavericks are winning, so I don't really care about him right now. And so it's like, on the one hand, I could see this team losing in the first round. On the other hand, right now, I could see this team going to the NBA Finals. Like, they're playing preposterously weird basketball that other teams don't seem to know how to defend over a 48-minute period. I mean, I love the Nuggets game is kind of the one weird outlier, because my friend Adam Mares, who helps run the DNVR website and all their podcasts and stuff, and the All Cities basketball podcast, he's like, well, this is just what Denver does. They just lock teams up in the fourth quarter. And I'm like, the Mavericks played stupid basketball against Denver in the fourth quarter. I don't want, like, they were playing prevent offense, and then they insisted on playing Maxey, who flurbed down the lane. Like, right now, win streak boosted, but I really feel like the Mavericks could beat anybody. Like, this is where I am right now. We still got 9 games to go. 11 games to go. So things could, of course, go down the shitter, but it's kind of fun.
It's kind of fun. Yeah. I mean, you start feeling like that when you can beat teams without having to hit 23s. Like, sustainably
sourced basketball.
Exactly.
The Dallas Mavericks.
This is farm to table basketball that we're watching right now. But yeah, they're going to have to hit threes eventually. Like, they can't keep shooting 28% as a team. Like, they play against, if they play against like OKC, or maybe they can get by like a Minnesota, but like Denver, they squeaked out. Like, you can't rely on not, winning every game without hitting any threes in today's NBA. Yeah. But the fact that they've been able to develop this way of winning without it is going to be absolutely crucial in those games in the playoffs where things slow down and get a little grimy. I mean, it's a bizarre transformation, because I mean, in the Luka Dončić era, they have been a 3-point team. Like, that's been their identity. And I know you've seen it and heard it. People that complained about, like, why are they shooting so many threes? Like, why does this team shoot many threes even when they're missing them? And it's like, guys, that's the team they built. Like, they built a team of standstill spot-up shooters because they realized Luka was the best three-point shot creator in basketball, and they felt like that was their way. They could moneyball their way into a contender while Luka was still 22 or 23 years old. And that didn't work as well as they had hoped. It did get them to a Western Conference Finals when they got enough defenders around them. But, they've built a different team. Like, they've got athletes. They have 2 legitimate athletic centers instead of trying to hodgepodge, a Dwight Powell or a Maxi Kleber or a Willie Cauley-Stein or, JaVale McGee or a Christian. Like, they've got 2 guys that are 2 of the best finishers in the league and 2 of the best shot blockers or rim defenders, I think, right now, because Lively's rim protection numbers are still pretty good. They've got they're not the smallest team on the floor anymore. They've got a legitimate swing forward, PJ Washington, that's doing all the stuff that they thought Grant Williams could do, but better, at least defensively. They're just a different team. Like, Exum's playing more and healthy, and like, that's a pretty big guard to bring off the bench. Like, less Josh Green, more Derek Jones Jr. also, who's a much more longer rangier wing than some of the guys that they've been playing on the perimeter. Like, it's a different team now. Now they don't need to rely on the three because they have different guys. So that's always fun to that's fun to see.
It's in this team that we're seeing right now. This team that we're seeing right now really stands to benefit my long-standing position that Luka Dončić wants to pass the basketball. He wants to make the right play. And it is the fact that we're year 6 into the Luka era, it is somewhat criminal that the Mavericks front office of before this one, and really, up until the trade deadline this year, did not have a firm enough grasp of what having a real rim roller would do. Where it's so asinine in hindsight, where you talk for years about how good of a roll man Dwight Powell is. And this is not to take anything against Dwight Powell, but Dwight's not doing that without Luka or JJ Barea. Like, that's just it. Like, so it's going to be. We don't want to revisit the past in this instance, but it's kind of amazing. Like, I think if Luka was to get a full season with guys like this, he might stand a real chance of leading the league in assists.
Yeah, I mean, this is the most athletic team they've ever had with Luka
by far.
I mean, this might be the most athletic team the Mavericks have had. I mean,
the 2013-2014, before they fucked everything up for Rajon Rondo, was a pretty ridiculously weird, fun basketball team with athleticism.
Yeah, but like this?
Not like this. Not quite
the
big man range, but I mean, Brandon Wright was amazing.
Alfred
Aminu. Like Aminu was a guy that Luka Dončić, like if there were an Aminu, like Luka would have made that guy like a max contract just from existing.
He would,
you know?
Yeah, he would have. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, now they got. I don't know what else to say. They play again tomorrow.
Yes,
Sacramento.
We'll be back. I'm not going to host the secondary show tonight because we're going to do this. I'll do this tomorrow night, and then I'll stay up late going into that. But I don't really want to stay up late 2 nights in a row. It's already 11:20. I got to edit and get everything up before going back to the hellscape that is my current job at the moment. Do you have anything else that we want to hit on?
I'll say defensively something to shout out. I think like we talked about how after the first quarter, Luka was better and the team kind of followed his lead. And we kind of said like defensively as well. And I think they did a good job switching. I thought the Jazz in the third quarter, really, they were deliberately picking on Luka with Markkanen, like getting Luka switched on to Markkanen. And I thought Luka did a pretty good job holding up in one-on-one against him in the second half. And I think that was huge to them getting that lead and extending it and coasting. I mean, they didn't coast toward the end, but kind of winning comfortably. I'll just say that.
But yeah, before we go, I do want to just make two completely wildly distinctly different recommendations. The first is for our TV watchers out there. 3 Body Problem on Netflix. Hit me up if you want to talk to me about it. I am a book reader. It is a Chinese science fiction series that is one of the most advanced, like hard science series I've ever read. It's truly ridiculous. And second, I couldn't be more delighted that we are fast approaching garbage summer movie season. Like just the complete opposite end of the spectrum. My son wanted to watch, like he's just old enough now. And like, I don't know about you, but I grew up on like the ultra violence of the 80s, like stuff that I had no business watching. And now it's just like, it's great. So my kid and I have watched all the King Kong and the Godzilla movies, getting ready for this just trash can that'll be coming out this weekend. Godzilla and Kong. I couldn't be more pumped. It's just it's just the time of year that we're in. I love going to the movies.
I do too.
Like, and it's so yeah. Well, because I mean, we're both big people, and like movie theaters are air conditioned. Like
it's dark,
like dark, quiet. I mean, well, nobody talking to you. Wow, it's going to the movies is just great.
I know.
It's great.
Give me that tub of popcorn. Give me a hot dog. Crank that AC down.
Hot dogs. I cannot.
They're so bad.
That's what's going to kill you. The hot dogs.
Yes, it is. I'll be right there. I'll be seeing Kong. I'll be seeing that with my little brother.
It's
and then
gonna be so bad. I cannot wait.
And then Megan is earnestly excited to see the new Planet of the Apes movie. So
I missed Planet of the Apes. Funny one. It's our podcast. We're gonna do what we want. One of the weird things about NBA Summer League for years was those movies. All 3 of them came out during Summer League. It was like 6 years. It was like 2 years between movies. And every time I was out there, I always missed it. But a bunch of like beat reporters and different people out there would all go see the stupid movie together. And I missed it. And I always remember being very jealous. And Parker was like, "Can I watch these?" And I'm like, "Sure." More garbage movies,
Well, here's the thing. She swears because the first one had James Franco and then the second 2 didn't. The second 2, the previous 2 that came out, those are not like garbage. Like those are
they're real movies. Because what's his name? The Smeagol, the guy who was what's his Zirkus.
Yeah,
is that right?
I don't know what his name is. The actor.
I can't remember. He's an amazing act, like kind of like
And Matt Reeves, who did the latest Batman movie, directed the last 2. Like apparently, I haven't watched them, but we're gonna rewatch them before we see the new one. They're legitimate movies.
sign me up for
Andy
Andy Serkis. Thank
Serkis.
you. God, my brain was broken for a moment. Anyway, it's been Kirk and Josh talk about something other than basketball. That's what's so funny. Like, I implore my timeline. Granted, this is the last 3-day break we're going to get until the off season, but like, I implore the timeline to just take a fucking lap when the Mavericks aren't playing basketball. Like Mark Stein wrote this really, I mean, it was a good story. Sourced story, quotes from Kyrie Irving, quotes from Jason Kidd about, kind of Kyrie's connection. And, if you're comfortable with Kyrie, like we are, I think he's going to be here for a while. But then it was like Jeff Skin Wade just decided to be like, you guys that don't like Jason Kidd don't know what the fuck you're talking about in a tweet. It just like, it absolutely cracked me up where it's just like, this is what happens when we don't have basketball, where all of a sudden we just find shit to argue about. It's great. And Josh and I are like, we're like sending texts to each other about the garbage Paramount Halo show.
Like, that's what we're spending we don't want to talk about that. We'll talk about the Halo TV show, but we're not going to talk about Jason Kidd in our off hours.
That's right. Well, we'll count our blessings. We don't have any Mavericks basketball betting scandals to talk about yet. We will
not yet.
We will be back tomorrow night. It'll be another late one. Thanks so much for hanging out. Be sure to catch that afternoon nap. This has been Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. Everybody have a great Tuesday. Talk soon.